professional learning you can consume during lunch or on a dog walk or while you build a snowman. Our goal is to provide meaningful, engaging, and brief conversations for educators. I'm Kate, and my co-host today is Jeanette. I am really excited about this episode today because I think it's going to provide some really great information. We are talking alternative licensing, and we have two guests today that we'll be talking with. Our first guest is Amy Larson, Davis District's Alternative Licensing Coordinator. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
We are so excited that you are here today.
Thank you.
To talk about the APPLE program, which is Davis's alternative licensing program. And we know that in Davis, we have hundreds of teachers that come to teaching via a non-traditional route, and they are amazing teachers doing great work for kids. So Amy, our first question for you is, what is the APPLE program? I mean, we talked about it being the non-traditional route, but what is it and who is it for?
APPLE stands for Alternative Pathway to Professional Educator License.
So APPLE spelled wrong.
It's spelled wrong. It's very annoying. But a lot of people think it's Appel, but we pronounce it Apple, which makes it fun because there's an apple, we could play with. But yes, and it is for teachers that want to go an alternative route to obtaining their professional license while they're teaching. There are two pathways to get a professional educator license. One is through a university program with licensure or a district's APPLE program.
These people that are coming to teaching via this route, and they maybe didn't go through a university program before, they have a bachelor's degree in something else traditionally? Is that what you see?
Yes, they do need to have a bachelor's degree, and it could be in anything. They can start teaching and go through our program, the APPLE program, and obtain a license.
We know that part of the challenge of having a conversation about the APPLE program is that you can quickly get into the weeds of all the variations of programs. There's a different program for every teacher that has one. But can you give us some of the basics? Like, what are the basic parts to every APPLE program?
Every plan is personalized, you're right, but it does have 5 basic components. One is that our teachers need to have experience competencies, being observed, doing best teaching practices, and be competent in that. They need to have pedagogical trainings. That's the art of teaching children. They also need to observe other teachers in the field and do a reflection on that. They need to have content knowledge. Lastly, they need to have a pedagogical performance assessment. That's with all educator prep programs, need to have that.
So that assessment is kind of the culmination of this program.
It is.
And it's performance-based, so submission of lesson plans, videos, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's like a portfolio where they gather artifacts and videos of them teaching and observations and things like that. Yes.
So it sounds like you have, some teaching stuff they need to go through with classes and competencies that they need to reach. And then that content side, what does that entail? Like, if I major in English, does that cover me for content in English?
If you are teaching in an area that you graduated, have a degree in, then that does cover almost all of your courses. There might be some methods courses or something like that you might need, but it's okay if you haven't majored in the area. You still have opportunities to take content classes.
So I could, if I majored in math, I could still teach English, but it might be a longer program for me because I have some of those gaps to fill.
Right.
Awesome. So if I come to teaching alternatively, can I, if I already have a bachelor's, can I start teaching and then obtain my master's instead of doing the APPLE program? Or is that an option for me if I want to get licensed while I teach as well?
Yes, teachers have those two options through a university program that ends in licensure.
And there are master's
programs that do that. Or like I said, the APPLE program. So definitely they have choices.
We get a lot of questions from potential teachers about this path being very rigorous. They're starting a new career while getting licensed at the same time. So can you speak to what a teacher can expect from the time commitment and timeline in this program if they start teaching, let's say they started teaching next fall, what would that timeline and time commitment look like for them?
It can be very daunting starting a career like this without training. Our district has amazing mentoring and induction program that all of our teachers go through. We also have an intro to teaching training for all of these teachers without licenses to help them give a good kickstart. The Apple program, it is very low cost, depending on what content you come with. Also, it's very flexible with our teacher's schedule. It takes about 3 years. You get hired, then you work on an associate license. Then we get to the Apple program, we personalize it, we meet with you and your principal. You work on these things through about 3 years, and then at the end we recommend you for a professional license to the state.
We know we have teachers listening who are in an Apple plan, and we also know sometimes there's some frustration. What are the typical frustrations that teachers might feel during their Apple plan, and what tips or tricks or comments do you want to say, things you want to say to them to ease some of that frustration or concern?
I think always refer back to your own personalized plan that is, exactly for you. Always reaching out to me, keeping me in the loop at all times. I can help clarify. We do have, formal meetings with our teachers and their principals, but I can always meet and have at any time to help clarify. One trick, I guess, or tip, if you haven't got your associate license yet, and maybe you're trying to apply in the fall or winter of the year, to wait till January. You get an extra year before it expires.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out right now. Nobody who's listening, get your AEL between now and the end of December. Yeah. Wait till January, because that gives you more time.
Yes.
So the first step, obviously, is to get hired.
Yes.
And then really, you'll kind of support them down those years. And I like that it's kind of spread out. It's like you've got a couple years to learn how to teach and do it in your own classroom and get these courses and things that will improve your teaching. And it's kind of hopefully at a very, very reasonable pace if you can just kind of get started and work your way down.
Absolutely.
Can I say about these teachers and to these teachers?
Yes.
What they bring into our classrooms is so valuable. We know some, speaking just in the secondary area, we know some of our strongest programs and teachers come from a career, come from the private sector. We're home for 10 or 15 years raising kids, and then they step into this career and they bring this wealth of experience with them, and it is powerful. We're so happy we have them. But this is a lift. You know, it's hard. You step into a profession and now you have to get that professional license while you're working full time. So we recognize and honor what they're doing, and we also recognize and honor the challenge that the Apple program gives them. So
absolutely.
We're here to help.
Yeah, we're grateful that you're here, Amy, to kind of walk them through each of those step-by-steps. And I think that that's very helpful to have that, support as we support these, like Jeanette said, wonderful, amazing teachers doing great work for kids.
Absolutely.
Our next interview is with Julie Gibson. She is a 5th and 6th grade teacher here at Lakeside Elementary. Welcome, Julie.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So you are currently working through an Apple program right now, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that's awesome. We are so excited to hear a little bit about your experience and your journey. So we know that Davis District has lots of teachers on this alternative program. And can you tell us just briefly a little bit about your path to teaching and how you ended up here?
So my path started at Weber State, where I graduated with my degree in corrections, and I became a counselor with kids in crisis. And from there, I've always loved working with kids. And so when I had children of my own, I decided to stay home with them. But once they entered elementary school, I started to volunteer because I missed working with kids. And that turned into this whole thing. I started with volunteering, then became an aide, working with them in math and reading. And it looked like working out on the playground with them because I was very adept with working with kids' different behaviors. And that evolved into COVID aide, math coach, you name it.
Wow.
Yes. And so
now teacher.
And now teacher. So I decided while I was working on all of those different tasks that, hey, I really should pursue my alternate or associate educator license. So by doing so, it allowed when a position came open mid-year, I was able to interview for it. And it made sense for me to become that teacher because the kids were already familiar with me. And I had been so many years interacting with all of our peers here that, yeah, it was a natural fit for me to step in and take over that class and joyfully finish the year.
That's awesome.
Wow. That's a challenge to step into a classroom mid-year and joyfully finish the year.
I did. I have picture proof of joyfully.
Oh, yeah. I believe it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, you were ready. You were ready to step in. What have been any elements in your Apple plan so far that have benefited you as you've learned about teaching? Are there any specific practices or classes or anything that you've done?
Absolutely. The first year teacher that David's training, that
new teacher induction.
Yeah, the new teacher induction. Thank you for that. That has provided so much for me. More just like going to observe other teachers and how they teach. There's so much power in that by observing others and taking my experience from before to being able to see so many teachers teach so many different ways, and it all works. So we're all unique. So that was fun. But I love the mentorship the most and some of the trainings that I've received, like the classroom management training. Anytime you can take a training from Allison Riddle, it's fantastic.
We agree.
We agree wholeheartedly. What advice do you have for teachers kind of considering this pathway? Is there something you wish you would have known or thoughts you have for them?
As far as getting their associate educator license, the praxis is not as hard as you think it's going to be. Also, just to hang on to your hat. There is quite a few requirements for it. However, it's like a checklist. It's so amazingly laid out that you can accomplish it. So just being flexible and being willing is just half of it. So,
have you had any frustration with trying to get up to speed in your classroom and the Apple? And are there any tricks or tips that you have for balancing the teaching with the license pursual?
Absolutely, time management. Make a map. Map out you do your curriculum, map out your Apple program when you want to accomplish things by when. Most teachers love a good checklist. So if you break it into smaller chunks and just work through that way, it becomes less overwhelming if you feel overwhelmed by it. Just managing one thing at a time. And then clearly the plan that they put together for you is laid out so that you can just continue to work through it. And it's step by step.
Yeah, I think you take a class and at the very first day, the professor reviews the syllabus with you and you're so overwhelmed with everything that's going to happen. And you sometimes forget that it's over the whole course of the semester. And I think that might be the same with looking at your journey towards licensing. If you look at it, this years-long process all at once, I'm sure it can feel overwhelming. But if you do what you did and kind of break it down into those manageable pieces so that you can kind of tackle it one at a time.
Yep, just like a checklist, right? Got this accomplished. Because we all know in teaching, the job is never done. You could spend a ridiculous amount of time and it would never be what you feel is done.
Sure.
However, but you can go, how do I prioritize this? What can I look like? What's the most important? And what's going to take the biggest amount of time and break that into pieces? I don't know. That's how my brain works.
Well, and a benefit of this is that you are in your own classroom and enjoying the job, loving the job while you are getting the licensing. And that's not for everyone, but for people who are ready for that, had the experience like you had. What a great thing to be able to be in your classroom.
Yeah, for sure. And allowing you to pursue it a different way instead of me going back to school too, of taking even more classes that I wouldn't necessarily have an interest in or something like that. All the trainings that are provided are specific to what I'm doing today.
Well, would you like to share a gift with us for our teachers, a recommendation that you have for our listeners?
Ted Lasso.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
love
let's
Ted
grab the
Lasso.
last group that hasn't watched Ted Lasso.
You need to get on it.
You need to get on it. Keep in mind, have a sense of humor and a sense of wit, but it's enjoyable and it's so fun.
It makes you feel like a better person, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
It just brings back joy.
Yeah. I love it.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Julie, for being with us today and sharing your story.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Do you have a gift for teachers today?
I do. I am in the world now of happily in the world of Korean dramas. I have many favorites, but I would start off with the Netflix series A Love So Beautiful. It's the 2020 series, and it's just full of, it's sappy and happy and emotional and endearing and
All things we need
Yes.
this holiday
That
season.
sounds like a perfect thing to curl up and watch.
Well, thank you so much, Amy. I'm so glad that you're here to support teachers. And as always, thanks to our producer, Tom, for making us sound so good. This season, we are also putting video of the podcast on YouTube. You can continue listening on your favorite podcast app and also check out the video component on our YouTube channel. Check the show notes for that link. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe and share the podcast with others. See you at school.